We have somebody at IDEM camera.
Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for everyone to come on board, as we do.
Do we have more? Do we have more?
They will be coming. We're 2 minutes off. I'll just wait while people familiarize themselves with the platform. So, young lady, how are you?
I'm great. I'm good.
Good. I'm good. I am excellent. Can you tell me how you came across this platform?
So the ladies just posted on MVMT group.
Are you in England? MVMT? What is MVMT?
My Vibe, My Tribe group on WhatsApp.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. I know that.
Yes, so that's why I'm here. So
they play a lot of Afro house music, don't they?
Yeah, really good.
Oh, they play good music. So you must be in the UK then?
Yes, I'm London based, Southeast London based.
Okay, well, welcome.
And your name is?
My name is Monica.
Hi, Monica. Pleased to meet you. I'm Diana.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm Scotty. I'm one of the guys that Diana's brought on board to try and lend some input, lend some of my experiences.
We're just waiting for the other co-host to join.
Nice.
He's all the way in Atlanta, and he's coming on shortly. He's just finding a suitable place to pull over and be a part of it from wherever that is. I can see Sandra. I can see Redhead. Hello, lovely people. Thank you. We're just waiting for the platform to warm up. Myself and Scott is here. We're waiting for JC to join us.
If JC is long, then we will kind of just crack on and start and see where we go.
Yeah. So just to familiarize yourself, we have, for those who don't know Zoom, we have a chat room. So if you know about the chat, or if you don't, just hover around the screen and you'll see a little box that says chat. And in that chat, if you hear anything that resonates with you and you want to leave a question, by all means do so. There will be a Q&A at various times throughout, but you're welcome to, use the reaction to, I don't know what's in there. It's a thumbs up or hand clap in any way necessary to just communicate with us, okay? Log off from this. Not going. I don't know what I've done.
It's not going, D?
Yeah, it's going now. Okay.
So
we're very, very mindful of the time as well. So you're all joining us. We could go over the hour. Depends on how hot the platform gets, because this is a very controversial subject. And I hope you're excited as we are. Okay. So we've got Scott. I'm just waiting for JC to join us because he did say he's been over. So thank everybody. Hi, Steph. Hi, Sapphire. Hi, beautiful Z.
Someone just send the link.
Yeah, just forward it.
Yeah.
Forward it.
I've just sent it to them.
Thank you all for your punctuality. I bet your attendance was good in school.
Not.
Not. Mine wasn't.
I don't know if you're like
a truant. I was
really?
the one that didn't go to school.
You better make sure Zane ain't in that room, you know.
No, you know what? I've got a really bad headache. So I've just at the eve, I've got like a really bad, it's a penetrating headache. So I've sent them away and I'm just laying in the bed and I'm saying I've got to tune in.
Okay. Have you got water? Z, you drinking
Yeah,
water?
I've drank some water. I've just taken 2 paracetamols, but I think
Okay.
it's I think it's an eye strain. I think it's all the
Could
the
be.
work on the computer. I'm doing
Computer.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about tonight. What about you, Scott? How are you feeling?
Oh boy, I've had a long day at work, you know. I've had I started at 9:30 and I did some emails. And then I had a one-to-one with a professional. And then I had some training from 3 o'clock till 5. And then I had to do a couple more emails to close things down. And then I came up to my room and then I started to speak to you. So I feel like I haven't had that kind of downtime to like process what's going on and get myself. But I feel cool. I feel contented. I feel all right here.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to speaking to some of the guys in the group, because it's early days for us yet. We're starting this thing, and we want to see how we can utilize the different experiences to just share our knowledge, and most importantly, get other people to share their thinking and what's going on in their minds and their curiosity. So yeah, it should be a good hour. The last we had quite a lot of interesting people and different types of conversations. So this one should be good because you're going to be questioning me and questioning Claude as well. So it should be helpful.
And it's not one-sided either, you know, not targeted at anyone. It's where both genders can participate. Because everyone's got experience.
Yeah.
Everyone's got experience.
I think that you should start the meeting, because I can see people joining in, and if we leave it too long,
and it's only right. It's only right. They got here first. We're gonna have to tell off Mr. JC when he gets on board, and we can do it publicly because we're all about authenticity. Okay, I'm going to mute you, or you can do that yourself, but you can still hear from your platform. Welcome, Marilyn. If you guys could mute yourself, it'd be much appreciated. I can do it for you as well. Excellent. Okay, so let's begin. So, hello, my name is Diana.
Hello, D.
And I am joined with my co-host, Scott, soon to be joined by JC. Anyway, as we move on, we are entering episode 7. So thank you all for joining us. You could be anywhere you wanted to, but you chose to spend it with us. Sorry, let me just turn that off. So why do men go to their caves and women talk? Well, we're going to try our best to get as much feedback as we can, because everybody's going to have a different opinion, a different set of opinions. Some will agree, some will disagree. But no matter what, there's no right or wrong answer. Is that right, Scott?
There is no wrong. There is no such thing as a stupid question. So if you don't ask the question, then you don't get the knowledge that you might want to seek. And when I do training a lot of the time with young people, I always try and reiterate that point that, you know, like sometimes you're in a class or you're in a conference and someone's presenting something or they're saying something, and you can pick up the energy in the room that someone wants to ask a question, but they think, I can't ask the question. So I always reiterate, there's no such thing as a silly question or stupid, because it's a valid question. So in the chat process, we have that little, what they call that thing, that box thing, the chat room.
Chat room.
So if there's anything that you want to bring into the conversation, or you're curious about a train of thought that we're having, put the question or the response in the chat, and we endeavor to try and answer it honestly and as truthfully as we can. Well, yeah, I fly.
No, it's the smoke from the incense.
Okay, you're running the incense. All right, cool. All right.
I've just got some housekeeping rules, okay? So, if you'd like to be kept in the loop, as Scott said, please leave your details in the chat room. Please mute out the background noise. Use the chat room, please, to ask any questions. Don't feel, as Scott said, that any question is too stupid to ask. It's important. This is what this platform is about, interaction. We want to hear from you, the viewers. Yeah, we don't want to be spending all this time gassing, yeah, as they say. Not that what we have to say isn't going to be of benefit to you, but we also want to share the platform with you. It's not about us, it's about you guys. So yes, please do, by any means, just leave your question. If you want to ask it personally, then you click on my name or Scott's name or JC's name and pose the question, and then we'll throw it out, and then you can be anonymous. If you're not a shy person, then you can just put it out there, and if you look, it says everyone, and then everyone will see the question, and then we move on. This is very important, this statement here. Though we approach the platform, or each platform, I can see JC joining us, though we approach each platform with the utmost level of respect for our viewers, for this, we are mindful that there may be topics discussed that are sensitive and personal to our viewers. However, we welcome your opinions and would appreciate if you could refrain from any hostile comments, as we endeavor to maintain an holistic platform to be openly discussed and discussed freely and from a place of authentic maturity. If we please, you tell others, and if we do not, then please tell us. Last but not least, we hope you enjoy the show. Okay, you with us, JC?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
Just got in for, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm here.
We're
good
waiting
evening.
for you to catch your breath.
Yeah, I know, right? Good
All
evening,
right.
everyone. Good evening.
Let's start up a co-host, Jean-Claude. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead, and you'll know when.
What's up, Scotty?
How you doing, sir?
What's going on, bro?
I'm not too bad. Look like you've had a busy couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a discussion about that after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Glad to see you, though, safe and sound.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, but you know, just glad to be here in the midst of what's going on around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, heavy stuff, heavy stuff. So let's bring some joy to the world. Okay. The term man cave first cropped up in 1992 by an author called John Gray, who wrote the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, which, in his humble opinion, I guess, is a practical guide for improving communication and getting what you want out of your relationship, or so he thought. So I'm just going to turn to a page in his book where he talks about to offer a man, and this is not, there's one for a woman as well, but I'm going to start off with the male. To offer a man unsolicited advice is to presume that he doesn't know what to do, or that he can do it on his own. Because he is handling his problems on his own, he rarely talks about his problems unless he needs expert advice. His reason is, why involve someone? Why involve someone else when I can do it by myself? He keeps his problems to himself unless he requires help from another to find a solution. Asking for help when you can do it yourself is perceived as a sign of weakness. Okay?
You're smiling.
No, I'm not
Sweet
taking it.
That's sweet, you, isn't it?
Right. So firstly, let's establish how we communicate, bearing in mind what he has just given us about the man. One of the biggest differences with men and women is how they cope with stress. While it is said the men become increasingly focused and withdrawn, and women become increasingly overwhelmed and emotionally involved, it is from this that a man's needs for feeling good are different from a woman. He feels better by solving problems, while she feels better by by talking about problems. So not understanding and accepting these differences creates unnecessary friction in our relationship. So let's look at a common example. So when we were having the discussion about the contents of today's platform, Scott gave me an example, and it reads this: man is the head of the family, the lady is the neck. The neck can get the head to point in any direction. So I'm going to hand this over to you. Can you explain or elaborate what you mean
on
by
what that means?
Statement?
Yeah. I think that because the people don't know us here, sometimes you have to go back to your roots and where you come from. And sometimes when our parents, grandparents used to say things to us, at times we used to think, what kind of nonsense are they talking? What? But those was really important things. And I remember, like, when I reflect back to my grandparents, they were married for a really long time. And they was living in Jamaica. Growing up with them, I spent a lot of time with them. And when I think about my grandmother and my granddad, my grandma, and Mama Daphne was her name, really strong woman, really, really powerful, really caring, nurturing, 9 children, really. And when I think about the relationship, I can honestly say that she was stronger than my granddad. But there was a level of respect that she had for him as the man of the household. And I remember once I sat with her and she kind of elaborated what it was. So yes, I hold the finances. Yes, I do the children. Yes, I keep things together. But daddy, as she called him, is the head. And what you have to remember is that with gentle persuasion, the neck can get the head to turn in any direction. But if the neck is moving in a way where it's moving too fast, it's moving swiftly or abruptly, what that does, it gives the head a headache. And that's when the neck and the head is not in unison. That's when actually the neck is trying to pull in one way and the head is somewhere else, and it's just that conflict. And years later, I had to reflect on what does she mean by that? And then I realized actually what my grandma was eliciting to is that she must be persuasive, she must be tactile, she must be delicate, must be assertive, but she must not try and twist the head too rapidly, otherwise it's just going to cause conflict. And when I think back to today in terms of a lot of the work that I do in terms of trying to help families, young people, relationships, that's for mine, the conflict in terms of how they're communicating. They're not using those subtleties to turn the head in the direction the head traveling. So you don't have to twist it in a violent way to get it to go in the direction that you want. And that's what I think that saying has meant to me as I reflected on it. So yeah, I don't know when I shared it with you, Diane, what did you interpret from it?
Growing up with that statement, I didn't get it until this part of my life, and the closer I got on my faith walk. So it's that word, what I want to talk about, I'm going to go as we get into the discussion, because then I can elaborate on what that statement means. And I'm sure there's other members on this platform that may feel a bit more, I don't know, rigid about man is the head of the family, because we're in a total different era than our grandparents.
And that's something that I was gonna jump in and say. It's interesting because, like, you know, now that I'm in my mature years, it's like, you know, I can reflect back on my family values and what I saw growing up in my household. today is a different game, completely. You know, completely different set of values, is new and improved. You know, the youth are taking different, and I'm pretty sure that Scott could attest to this, but the youth absorbing cultural indifferences in a different way in today's society. Does that kind of make sense? Like, so as far as certain roles that may be played, like, you know, because if I look back and, like, you know, see my perception of man and woman's role when I was growing up, yes, the man was the dominant force in the house. You know, you can't bring that statement to, you know, certain individuals of the other sex now. It's, you know, you're going to get a rebuttal on that, but I get it because we've evolved from them, you know, but I think the bottom line is, where is the moral compass? Like, you know, is there still, you know, is there still some kind of hierarchy, or we're just there upon the same level, like two bull in our head? You know, so those are kind of like my thoughts and interjections on that.
Cool.
We'll stay humble until later on.
Laughing, I think.
And moving on swiftly. I don't know if I should open up the floor, because it looks like there's some women on here. Yeah. I'm gonna open up the floor.
Open it up. Yeah,
yes.
Oh, look. Open it up.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Where are we?
My name is Marilyn.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, sweetie. Hi, all. Blessings.
Hi, Marilyn. Hiya.
I can, Scotty, I can relate to what you've said. Sorry, let me close my door, because I was in a family household like that, where my dad was the head of the household. Okay, so for me, I'm thinking, okay, I've got children of my own. Have we got it wrong where we're not instilling enough in our children from the background where every family is an individual, everyone has different stories to tell. But if you're from a grounded family background, you really should instill it in your children, or try to, whether they'll take heed on what you're trying to open them up to, because the bottom line is, we've made mistakes. Everyone's made mistakes. And bringing up children nowadays, you kind of want to kind of steer them in the right direction. If they will listen. If they will listen, that's it.
That's the key part. If they will listen.
That's right. If they will listen. So that's what I've got to, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you for that, Marilyn.
No problem.
Great points.
Is anyone else?
Jasmine would like to say something.
Right, I've just jumped on, and good evening all, hope you're all well.
Good evening.
I've just jumped on, and I'm kind of catching the gist of how we are comparing our lives now to our parents. Right, okay. My mother she still is, a very strong Black woman. Her opinions in the household, she controlled everything. My father was in the army, so he gave her all the lease to do whatever she needs to do, and he knew quite confidently that she's going to execute to the best of his ability, even though he's not there, and her own ability. Do you understand? So we grew up with you know what, it's either mum's going to give us the look or the lick, so you can have the either else, whatever you want, the look or the lick. Now I still have that now in my household. I mean, I've been married for like 21 years this year, and my kids know me. When I grit my teeth like that, I ain't playing. Do you understand? So I've taken what my mother has installed in me unknowingly. I've taken away from that and brought it into my household. Now, as a Black woman myself, getting up in age and in my marriage, I understand that the husband is the head, definitely. But then my battery is running low, sorry. But to be fair, right, the women, we tend to take more of the burden which the men choose to actually put on us. There's two guys on this platform, and I mean, I look pan on a fierce.
Yeah, no, I'm really curious about what you're saying because I'm listening, and I even wrote that note about
perspective,
because
honest, objective perspective.
Right, because you know, the women back then were totally different from how we are now. We are more, when we've got more, there's liberty. There's a lot more liberty that we can do all sorts of things. Where back then it was the man who was
playing music downstairs. I can hear
someone bombing our
Jazz.
meeting.
I'm gonna mute them.
Who's that? 16 coming in again? Bombing us, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like the woman.
Sorry, I'm gonna take this.
Yeah, that's good.
Sorry, am I?
No, keep going, Jazz.
Okay, so the women of today seem to take more of the front lead and lead very well, whereas years before it was like the father bought the house, the father said wine for eat or wine do, and the mother or the wife or mummy, whatever you want to call it, you know, has to kind of go along with what he says. So I don't know if I'm coming off what we were talking about, but I feel that we have developed as women. Okay, we are. You can't say. You can say that we're equal, but we're not equal.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing what we have to do, and sometimes the men don't like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point because I think that leads on to Diane was going to go with the conversation next around why do men now retreat to this man cave? And when me and Diane was talking about this man cave, it's not metaphorically, it's the shed at the back garden, it's the PlayStation room, but in our mind we resolve and we go to this place because that communication, that way how we dialogue with each other, there is a difference. And I think about, I think women now, you guys are so powerful, you're so beautiful, you're so intelligent, you're striving ahead. But sometimes as man, that can be very daunting. It can be very
Intimidating.
Where does that leave my masculinity? Where does that leave me feeling? So if we look at how boys and girls are raised, men are raised to talk, to be tough, to firm it up. So all through our socialization, we're not allowed to show vulnerability, we're not allowed to cry, we're not allowed to do any of that. And then girls, when they're growing up, they are emotionally intelligent. They start having conversations about their feelings from really early. So when we get into our adulthood and we venture and we get into these relationships, sometimes because of the position where the women are now, it can drive men literally to these caves. Diane, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
I definitely, thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, Marilyn, for your sharing your opinion. I have one more opinion in the chat room, and it says, I think these days, some people would say that female and male in relationship are like left and right hand. Some people are left-handed, some people are right-handed. So I'm just going to put emphasis on this segment. That seems to be what everyone has shared. It seems it's about a level of communication and how the communication has changed over the period of time. Yeah. And the man cave came around in 1992. So we're looking at about 60s, 70s, and when it came about in the 90s. And I'm sure with the grandparents, well, the generation that we're from, we saw a lot. And we told ourselves, hell no. When I get to that age, I ain't doing XYZ, or I'm doing XYZ. Again, back to the influence, because either going to be a negative or a positive, right? So I'm not digressing, but I understand the concept where we are at, and it's communication, which is very key. And we've come a long way from what was instilled in us. Yeah. Okay. In his book, Act Like a Lady and Think Like a Man, Steve Harvey very accurately lays out how simple men really are. And he writes, now men are amazingly simple creatures. It really doesn't take much to make us happy. Let me just see, because I can hear something going on here. Right. It really doesn't take much to make us happy. In fact, there are only 4 things, according to Mr. Harvey, that every man needs or desires. Now I'm going to pause that thought for the moment, and I'm going to open up this whole concept of this man cave. And you know, Scotty spoke about he metaphorically goes inwardly or retreats inwardly when he's going through whatever he's going through. Yeah. And women, we just love our sisters, man. We love our sister circle. We love getting on the phone. We love the togetherness of being able to just offload. Somehow that is in our DNA. Yeah. So again, the man cave, and don't get it wrong, don't get it twisted, because women, we have our she sheds. You lot might not have heard about them, but there's men cave, men cave and she sheds. And I'll tell you one thing, I had a man cave or she shed or whatever it was, and I made mine because I love my music. It was away from the house, away from hubby, away from the kids, and I just set up my little nest in my garage with my music. Do you understand me? And I just zoned out from the mess. Didn't want to deal with it. Did not want to deal with it. Can't do all of this going on up here. It's too static, mate. Yeah? And my way of dealing with that was, you know what? I'll pick it up tomorrow. And tomorrow became a week. And then a week became a month. And a month became 2 months. And it never got dealt with. Yeah? So one thing led to the next, and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, let's just hold that thought for the minute. So with this in mind, like I said, Steve Harvey, he gives 4 examples. I'm not going to tell you what he says at this minute, but I'm going to ask you, JC, what would be your 3 needs or desires that you think would prevent you from retreating to your man cave?
What would be the 3 things that would prevent me from wanting to withdraw within myself and stop dealing with the madness? Basically, that's what you say, right?
Being politically correct, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of comes down to what does a man want? You know, do you know what I'm saying? And it does go both ways, but like, again, so related to me, some kind of understanding, like deeper levels of understanding, some kind of, and to a degree, empathy, you know, because kind of like understanding what a man has to go through in life and the struggles that we have to, and again, this does go 2 ways. So like, you know, but again, like, you know, some empathy, like, because sometimes you're going through certain things and you might want to try and break it down to your significant other, and it kind of flies over their head. Well, all right then, man cave. Don't want to deal with it. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes if it's like, hold on, let me just listen to what he's actually saying, you know, and understand the gravity of the situation, that might prevent exit to the man cave. Like, you know, and again, it does go 2 ways. Like, you know, I mean, you know, I found that, like, you know, I could have probably been a bit more successful in past relationships if I did give a little bit more time to listen. You know, I'll be the first to put my hand up. But like, you know, was that 3 things already, or was that just 2?
This kind of will be.
Yeah. And well, just to sum it up, just like, you know, deeper levels of understanding, and willingness to communicate and talk through things?
You,
Yeah.
Scott?
That's a tricky one. Because sometimes you try and be politically correct, innit? Because you have different people from different places and you have to try and keep it PC, as they will say. You have to keep it tame and you have to keep it calm. But I think a level of understanding, intimacy, and when I say intimacy, I'm not talking, I mean physical intimacy, but I mean intimacy in terms of, I look at intimacy as like when you can bare your soul to someone and you know that they're not going to judge.
Intellectual intimacy.
This is who I am as a person. And if we're together and we're intimate, you can, I call it the 80-20, isn't it? So there's going to be 80% of me that you check for that. Yeah, that's my man. That's the fella. That's so forth. But there's a 20% that sick your stomach, isn't it? Like, don't like how this man leave his shoes in the passage and so forth. Yeah. No, there's going to be the 20% of things. Oh, for real. There's going to be the 20% more when this man cook, this man don't tidy up and behind him. He just cook good food, but he just leave the kitchen away. And that's going to rattle you. And then you're going to have a conversation with me about something else, but that was the issue. So I think a level of intimacy, we know each other, both physically and mentally, communication. And I think just being kind to one another, being kind and being what I call this word, mentalization. This word means just being curious about what's going on in that person's mind, what's going on in Scotty's mind, what's going on in JC's mind. And when I think about what's going on in their mind, it makes me think about what's going on in my mind. So was it really the shoes in the passage, or was it actually, you know, we had a really hard estate agent visit where he just came home and he just kicked off. It weren't because he doesn't think about me. This might have been going on for him. And then we also have to try and be more curious about what's going on in our wives, our partners' minds, our girls. We have to be more curious. And what I call it is, I think what stops us from going to that cave is if we give ourselves a little bit of time to actually pause and be more curious about each other instead of being in that position. And it comes down to, again, what's going on in the brain. There's some psychology behind it. So when we feel that threat or we feel anxious, I said this last week regarding the young people about that emotional connection is at the front part of the brain, where our empathy is, where our logic is, where our reasoning is. Prehistoric part of the brain is where our fight or flight. And when we get into that state, sometimes in our relationship, we just go back to that flight or flight. I feel like this, so I'm going to react like that. Instead of being in the front part of and being more curious about what could be going on. So the three things: communication, intimacy, and a deeper level of kindness. That's what I would say.
They're all lovely. You both have very lucky women.
Well, you know what it is? I mean, the longer you go through life, you know, the more experiences you have. I mean, you either learn, and I won't call them mistakes. You either learn from your experiences, you know what I'm saying, and try and make yourself better, and like, you know, understand yourself and understand what you will, you know, you're prepared to work with from what you're not prepared to work with. Because sometimes we get into relationships and we think, oh yeah, eventually I'm going to change this person. No, you ain't. It ain't going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You can read what's on the label and you know what you're getting. When somebody shows you who they are, you best believe them. You're not going to change them. So, you know.
Yeah, I see Diane smiling. Diane, you want to say something? Come in, Diane. I don't know if you want to open the floor now to the people.
I'm going to start to fire on them.
I've got a flow to this platform and I want to keep it because you man is on some cannons right now, man. Just swing up. Right. When you spoke about intimacy, Scott, there's a play on words with intimacy, and it's into me I see. Yeah? You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Into me, I see. Okay. And
That's
it
pretty
definitely is where you kind of, that bear in your soul is when you get to that level with your partner, there ain't no man cave, there ain't no girl talk. It's me and my man one-to-one. Yeah. Because you've reached that level of intimacy where you know you can cry in her lap. She can bear her all in your lap. And that loving just becomes so holistic and organic, yeah, that there ain't no room for no man cave, whether it's out in the garden or up here. And the same applies with the women or the, you know, and I'm proud to say I stand on that palladium now. You know, like when Lewis Hamilton wins first place in the Formula One.
Yeah,
All right. That's the level. Yes, yes, yes. That's the level. That's the level. So it's a beautiful feeling, again, to have exactly your ideals of your needs and your desires. So I'm going to share what Mr. Harvey said. His examples were support, love, made to feel wanted in all ways. And he spoke about the cookie. For big people. Yeah? All right then. Yeah? The loving is sweet. We're going to get it right. The loving is sweet. Yeah?
I'm going to jump out for a sec, man.
Huh?
I'm going to jump out for a sec.
Go on, see it. Me and D will roll. Me and D will roll.
All right then. Yeah, so the impact of the independent woman, as Queen Beyonce has instilled and reinforced even more, has made women of this century want to get up and become exactly that. Not saying that it was not prevalent before, but there seemed to have been a big shift in women that influenced their attitude even more and behavior. For example, there is a verse that reads, tell me how you feel about this. Try to control, well, she says, question, tell me how you feel about this. Try to control me, boy, you get dismissed. Pay my own fun, oh, and I pay my own bills, always 50-50 in relationships. Okay, key word in there, dismiss, yeah? With that in mind, dismissal is on the charts. This leads to rejection. And then it starts to go downhill from there. The love language becomes foreign. Did you get that, JC?
No, I'm sorry.
JC. Oh.
Okay, I'll just go over it for the benefit of my co-host. Beyonce has this song, as you know, Independent Woman.
Yes.
All right, and there's a I made it relevant that women off of the back of that song, myself in the club, hey, independent, you know, the whole, yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And you know, women are thriving off of this independency, yeah. So that in that song, there's a section where she speaks about, you know, if a guy tries to control her, he's going to get dismissed. So immediately, we have that attitude. Independent women have that attitude where you are not going to be controlling me, baby, for these reasons. The minute you get dismissed, it leads to rejection, and then it starts to go downhill from there, and then the love language becomes foreign. Hence, retreat, man cave, girl talk, right? So this section here is directed at both males and females. And this segment is called In the Womb to the World, yeah? Okay, this is where it gets juicy. It is said that in the womb, we marinate in the energy that becomes the foundation of our beginnings, our sense of self. Some people marinate in care, concern, love, and excitement. Some people marinate in fear, confusion, guilt, dishonesty, and dis-ease. Yeah? In on the last platform, JC, you made a remarkably valid comment addressing along the lines of the data inside of us. Do you remember?
Yes.
And you said that data let me just move. You said that data, that is the data that is inside of us, and I'm taking it, we're coming from the womb, going right up, sets us up to who we become.
Right.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a bit more, please?
Right. So I think what I was trying to outline is like, you know, everything, you know, we're born and we're a blank hard drive. So in the womb, essentially we're a blank hard drive. Like, you know, we have no memories, you know, we haven't even developed emotions or anything like that. So again, like once we're born and once we get to be around other individuals, every experience is being loaded onto our hard drive. You know what I'm saying? Whether good or bad, these are all things that, like, to a degree, we're committing to memory. Subconsciously, we're committing things to memory. And all these things that we're committing to memory, like, you know, these are things that, like, you know, enable us to evolve and grow and mature into adults. But nevertheless, when we become adults, like, we're still committing things to memory. Things are coming onto our hard drive. Good things, and then, you know, we got viruses that, like, you know, things that, like, you know, they come to mind, but they're negative. Like, you know, now we're committing memory space on our hard drive, you know, to focus on certain negative things that are not enabling us to, you know, just run smooth. And again, I'm relating it to a computer because we all got to use computers nowadays. Sometimes when there's too much stuff on the memory drive, the computer slows down, so it's not being optimal. Do you know what I mean? And it pretty much things true for humans. Like, you know, it depends on what you take on board, like, you know, and what you commit to memory, and, like, you know, what you're going to commit your resources toward. Like, you know, that's going to determine, like, you know, the types of experiences that you have in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I speak to, could I step in, please?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Blackberry.
Good, welcome, Blackberry, BB 100.
You got a name, Blackberry?
Yeah, still have a Blackberry.
Yeah,
is that your name, Blackberry?
I have a Blackberry Key 1.
Okay, what's the name, sir?
Oh, LB.
LB.
Pleased to meet you, LB.
Greetings all, greetings all. Going on the back of what JC was saying, have we touched on socialization?
We spoke about socialization a little bit earlier when I was talking about how boys are social from to be firm, to not cry. Girls are socialized to talk, to be very expressive in their emotional conversation. So socialization's got a big part to play in how we learn to communicate with our significant other or with our peers or with family members. So we can't discount socialization. There's so many factors that are brought into socialization that's the next conversation that we need to have outside. Because yesterday, Diane, I was listening to some people and this topic came up and I thought, oh, here we go again. And it was about a young man who's a teenager who is giving his mum problems and what should they do? And lots of people started to jump in on the conversation and it didn't rub me up, but I just thought about it. And because of the work that I do, I posed this question: can a lioness teach a lion to lead a pride? And people were saying, what kind of analogy is that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's, yes, a lioness can raise a cub and so forth, but when the time comes for that lion to learn how to run a pride, he has to see the big lion with the beard doing it, and that's how he's going to learn. And I got a little bit frustrated. I wasn't being curious with the people in there, but it's because it's a subject that we've had so many times around socialization. So just coming back to Blackberry or LB's point around, did we explore socialization? We talked a little bit, but that is a subject that I think we can put it on the notepad and maybe we can discuss that, the importance of socialization in the process of how men learn to communicate and so forth. But yes, LB, I think socialization is a massive part of how we learn to communicate later in life.
But
Can I?
but also,
No, go ahead, LB. I'll come in after you.
because I was going to say that I don't think we are ever stopped being socialized. We are socialized as children and as teenagers and in our 20s and our 30s, because of a certain era, women were your places in the kitchen, the man is the head of the home, he goes out, provides.
Yeah,
then we hit an area where, you're just talking about independent women, and the situation that men is in is very different. They're not always seen as the head of the home. And then, so then you've got people coming together with different ideas, different situations, as well as their life experiences. So there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of conflict, and sometimes we don't even know where it's coming from, because as John Claude was saying, these things are sometimes on the subconscious level. And if we're not aware of all of these factors from youth to the current day, and what society says what you should be, and if you don't think you are where you should be, if you don't think that you're the man who you should be, and if the woman doesn't think you're the man you should be, and if the woman doesn't think that she's where she should be, there's all these conflicting factors coming into play. And sometimes that's why the guy will retreat to the cave, because there's a thing in him that says he has to be the man. Society says that he has to be the man, but then part of society says, well, no, you have to be equal. So am I supposed to be the head of the home, or am I supposed to be equal, or am I supposed to be less than, because people say, no, man no good, man do this, man do that. So there is a lot of conflict, and it's difficult to find a place where we all meet. It's not impossible, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
And sometimes.
Well, you know what I'm going to say?
Can I jump on before you expand it? Because I know you lot are going to go for the juggler right now.
No, I'm not going to go for the juggler, because sometimes, you know what Granddad used to say, you have to take serious thing with joke, innit? So LB, no, serious. LB, next time when you're in the camera, I don't want to see the top of the beanie hat. I want to see your beanie hat. But LB there, tell LB to lift up him head. I want to see him.
That's a valid statement, LB, and it carries a lot of weight.
I see him.
Anonymous, man. Anonymous.
All right, that's all right. No pressure.
Why is that tuning on our next channel?
No pressure. But I'm gonna expand on that, because when I sit down, or sat down, past tense, to compile the contents, I had to do a lot of research, and I'm coming, psychology is my background, so I have to be very mindful of open-ended questions. Okay, and exactly what LB mentioned, I have that coming up, and this is where we talk about, off the back end of what Claude was saying in terms of the motherboard and the data and so on. Our relationships are like the kind of function or dysfunction displayed by our parents, carers, or our guardians. Yeah? Now this segment is about the children, which are us, all of us on this platform. So children repel when what they see is a repel. Yeah, so they rebel and they repel. Yeah, so that something forces them or driving them onto a not so good path. The atmosphere in the house when couples argue, for example, if one parent is abusive, an alcoholic, on drugs, the teenager's views on life can be warped. Yeah, and you can agree or disagree. Even in relatively tranquil homes, a child rebellion may break out when a child feels their parents have no interest in him. And the message that it's sending, trauma comes to mind because as humans, we easily take the data that Jean-Claude spoke of and we suppress it, and then later on it comes to regression stage, and it acts out in our relationships, in our friendships, in our work, in everything we do. Little bits of it are attached to that kind of, they call it a plateau, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, hence for some men and women, they have become emotionally unavailable. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's unresolved childhood issues relating to attachment or detachment. There's fear of commitment. There's feelings of unworthiness or inadequacy. Unresolved previous relationship issues where you carry the baggage. Yeah. And one thing they all scream out is beware red flags, yeah, which we see all the time and we dismiss. Yeah. I was going to give you 10. Is that you, Claude?
That's Claude. Claude's got too much business deal going on.
Yeah, he's muted himself. Anyway, is everyone with me? Just give me a thumbs up. Right. So this is the next section. There is no thing that gives you everything. When there is an absence of love, we discover how to find love. Man cave, woman talk. Yeah. Something in, sometimes in the wrong places. When a relationship goes sour, we become blind, immune, or resistant to our stuff by making an admirable attempt to dump or blame it on the other person. People will resist having your stuff dumped in their lap, and they will retreat. And most of the time, it's always he did, she did, he said, she said, no, you didn't, yes, you did, da 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 da. Yeah. Do not blame the other. Yeah. Your partner does nothing more than reveal your stuff to you. We love in others what we love in ourselves. We despise in others what we despise in ourselves. Yeah? Would you agree on that?
Good point.
And Scott, you gave me some questions that I'm going to use to elaborate on that, what I just read. And you asked, why do women take this as not wanting to talk?
And I think you need to throw that out there.
And I'm going to open up the platform to some women. We've had some women jump on. For those of you who have jumped on recently, I know you know the topic is why why do men go to their caves and women talk? Let's hear some women tell their reason why they're going to phone up their girls and throw a pity party.
Now you're going out. Oh, gee, I'm going out there to make a cup.
Are you throwing shades, Diane?
No.
Come on, then. Come on,
You're throwing shades.
Let's get it from the other side now.
Yeah, let's hear why. Who? You want the men or the women?
Let's say, I mean, who's ready? Let's go real talk.
Who's ready? Who's ready?
I'll go.
Go on, Jazz.
Right, I will phone up my friend, right? Because I guess I'm a bit particular with certain things. Everybody, I turn up them cameras. Sorry. Right. No, I'm a bit particular now. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do something in my house, I'll just do it and complete it. I'm not going to start and stop. And men, I would say my husband, but men, sometimes they start things and then they stop, and then you'll talk to them about it and say, I'm about to go back to it, you know. But if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't have gone back to it. Do you understand? And also, I believe communication is absolute key in a relationship. Absolute key. And I shouldn't always be coming to you to converse. You can come to me. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, if I'm doing something wrong in a relationship, don't store things up. Don't store it up and then tell me how much years down the line, remember when you did this and remember when you did that, how many years ago? Do you know what I'm saying? I just find it hard sometimes to try and, I just find it hard. Even though, as I said, I've known my husband for many years, but I find it so hard. That's why I call my friends and have a bit of a gas and say, you know what, is it me? Because first of all, I'll say to them, I want you to tell me the truth. Do you understand? Do you think I'm wrong to be saying X, Y, and Z? And majority of the time, to be fair, I'm not. But because my husband doesn't like to be told that he's wrong, it gets thrown back on me. Do you know what I mean? So I do have a gas to my girlfriend, but I don't downgrade him, but I just have a gas. And I try not to do it often, because sometimes your girlfriend will go away and be like, she's always moaning about her husband, man. You know what I mean? But I just feel that I feel sometimes men just, they don't think sometimes. They just do, they don't think.
All right, can I jump in real quick?
Okay.
All right, then. So, I mean, within that, do you find that it is the same things that are repetitively bothering you?
It is, and another thing that bothers me. Can I just
now hold it right there? That's a key point there, because if something's bothering you continuously, obviously you haven't confronted the issue and addressed it, and got, like, you know, some kind of closure about that one particular thing. If I tell you about the same thing all the time, that means that I'm allowing that same thing to happen all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what adds to the frustration. That's why it keeps on going on for years. We argue about the same shit for 10 years. It hasn't been addressed yet. There's been no closure on that yet. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, and it comes down to, like, you know, each party just being like, all right, Bills, make we sit down and just talk about two grown, sensible people. We can't be fighting about the same thing over and over and over and over again. We're not getting nowhere. You know what I mean? Actually, what we're doing is we're forming resentment that's going to keep on building up over the years. You know what I mean? It's like a vacuum being built up. So I think, you know, and again, I'm trying to be a better person for myself. I'm just speaking based upon past experience. I haven't been the greatest husband. I haven't been the greatest boyfriend. I haven't been the greatest dad. The only thing that I can do is, like, learn from that. And again, I'm not going to call them mistakes. Learn from those experiences and try and become better. So we're not doing on a long thing. We're not arguing about the same thing over and over again. Let's dead it right here. Do you know what I'm saying? And keep it moving.
And one other question, why is it, right, that men always sort of all right, you have a discussion, a small dispute. Why is it that they always seem to think that their family, mother, father, sister, and brother should come before you?
That's interesting.
Please, somebody answer that question so we can understand. All of us that
want to interject on that one, Scott? Because, like, you know,
I think
I've got a bag of win right now.
It's to do with the upbringing, the socialization around, as you said, unresolved issues. And I think sometimes...
Sorry guys, can I just interject? Could we just finish on the first topic, because that one's very, very juicy. And we've heard a lot from people who are married, but I also would like to speak on behalf, and if there's anyone else on the platform who's single and when being in a relationship, the reason I do turn to my friends a lot of the time is because at the end of the day, it's a maturity level. I feel like I can trust my sisterhood. If I'm going towards my guy and he's not showing me that security, that he's listening to me, or he's just quite immature at times, I've found. I mean, I don't know the age range of everyone here. I've turned 40, and I feel for the last 10 years I've been, you know, meeting a lot of immature men.
Right.
So I turn towards the sisters. Now at 40, do I think it's the right thing? No, not all the time, because sometimes they give me foolish advice. My advice now comes from God, from myself. Yeah. And sometimes I turn to females, and they've got their own issues that they're going on with, and they can be very bitter. And when we do go to our friends, sometimes if that friend continues to talk to you, you'll follow their lead because you think it's the right way. So that's the only reason why I would, because when I'm very verbal and I will tell a man how I feel, I'm very, you know, confident in saying how I feel and what's going on. But what I find is that when I express myself, he does run to that cave because he can't deal with me emotionally. He can't deal with what I'm bringing or what I'm saying or what I'm revealing about himself. And then that's quite frustrating for me, because that means that I've learned now we're not on the same level, and I can't baby him.
Yeah. I think what Diane mentioned earlier around that word intimacy that I brought into and I love that, what you said, Diane, like, into me I see. And if I had a hat on, I'll take it off to you, because yes, there is a lot of men out there that they're emotionally not ready, they're emotionally not available, they're emotionally not in tune to what you need, and they're just not to themselves. They haven't taken time to sit down and, what we used to say, tan toddy, and study themselves and know who they are. So when they meet someone like yourself or someone that is in tune, they feel quite frightened, and it is a position of fear. And earlier on I spoke about flight or flight, free and defense mechanisms in our brain. And sometimes when man get that fear, I got to do one of the three things, innit? I got to run, I got to hide, or I got to fight. And it sounds like some of the guys that you've met, they've gone to that prehistoric place. I'm just cutting, innit? I'm in fear of what this might bring up for me. So I'm just not even going to try and deal with it. So I think that word that we brought into the mix earlier, intimacy, into me I see. There is a lot of people, not just man, women as well, they haven't spent time to reflect on themselves. But when they are in these difficult situations, I feel threatened. And it's just human nature. We have these three threat responses: flight, flight, or fly. And it's unfortunate that the types of man them that you've met, unfortunately, it just seems like they fall into that category where they're just cutting. And yeah, I'm moving, I'm jogging on. So yeah, I think that's a really valid.
No, I'm the one that cuts and jogs on.
Oh, you're the one that cuts.
Yeah, because I can't entertain that.
Yeah, and I think now that
they'd want you to be quiet and just continue, and then, you know, you talk about an intimacy, they'll be willing to physically have intimacy with you without, you know, emotionally dealing with that intimacy that you're talking about. And I can't do that.
Yeah, and
because that will be a void to me.
Yeah, and a lot of, when we go to the cave, there is a level of immaturity there, but it's also a level of vulnerability, because to go and deal with these issues, I have to be really vulnerable with you. And earlier on, we spoke about socialization, and LB said that it continues through your 20s and your 30s. And a lot of us, we've been hurt along the journey. And as Diane spoke earlier about, unconsciously, we put this stuff in our unconscious mind because we haven't resolved it. But when we're in relationships or in those situations again, as Claude said, your hard drive automatically just brings up that memory, and then you go to that place where I'm just responding like this. Yeah, I'm just responding like this. So I think that's a really valid point. I mean, I'm aware, part of last week when we had, was it last week, Lee, when we had the conversation?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. Are we going every 2 weeks?
We discuss it.
We discuss it. It depends. So as last week, or the week before, sorry, I'm not a clock watcher, but I always talk about the therapeutic.
Watching the clock, bro. I confused.
No, I'm not watching the clock, bro. You're talking about the clock. And I'm always respectful of people that are tuning in or listening, and I always want to do this dance with the participants, well, whatever part of training or whatever. So I always want to give people the opportunity. Okay, we shared some curiosity about this subject, but for us to learn and grow from each other, we need everyone to share their curiosity about. Actually, when Claude talked about the hard drive, it made me think about this. Or when LB spoke about socialization, I thought about that. Or when Diane spoke about the independent woman and what they're going through. Or when Scotty spoke about the man cave and that level of socialization and that immaturity. So I always mindful, okay, yes, we can talk, but sometimes it's good to get participants kind of feedback, because I don't know how long we're here for. It's something past 8 now. And were we meant to go for an hour?
Yeah, we're cool. We're good.
We've gone past an hour already?
Yeah, that's what this platform does.
How is the people doing?
There's some feedback in the chat, and it says
who want us to roll?
We've
Are we still rolling?
We can still roll, baby. We can still roll. Yeah. We had when we touched about trauma, we had quite a few responses actually. Let me just get it in the right order. That's how empathy is so important. This is from one. Everyone have their own trauma experiences, and everyone processing stuff differently in their own tempo. This is where on the platform before someone spoke about healing. So it was very important that if you are not healed, do not even think about entering into another relationship, because you need to heal. Otherwise, the baggage is coming, it's following you into that next relationship, and so on and so forth. We had someone else say, let me just, or people wear masks as they are afraid to show their true self, hence why they go to their man cave. I've got another 2 here. Okay, the man cave, yeah. So you all are valuable in your responses, and we're no experts here. Understand me? So we just want to know your feelings on this subject matter, and if we're able to answer it, then fine. If not, someone else on the platform will have a valid answer to share, because we're all learning. As Scott said, he's just picked up some valuable little pearls along the way. I've picked up some. I've seen JC shake his head on a few. So we're all here to learn, each one to each one. Yeah. And with Z, she spoke about, you know, he's not the one that she steps. And that was where the next question was, why are women so expressive with their words? And is there someone that would like to answer that question as well? Another woman, a single woman.
We're not made to be clowns.
I like that.
Well, for me, I'm not a clown, so no.
Jasmine's there shaking her head up there.
I'd like, can I say a word on this?
Go for it, Trish.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
everyone. So
Hi.
from my point of view, I'm a single parent, and I think the reason I'm kind of so expressive and quick to the point is because I'm juggling such a lot. So I feel like I don't have time to dance around in a circle. So I'm pretty much kind of straight to the point and expressive. So I think from my point of view, that's what I would say.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm single, not by choice, because I lost my husband in 2018. Okay. So in terms of love, I definitely know what true love is. So I would never imagine, of thinking about another relationship, because at the moment, okay, because I'm still grieving, and the man that I had represented true love for real. So there's no such thing as a perfect marriage. And just going back a little bit, I think one of the reasons why I spoke, when I spoke with I didn't trust everybody, because not everybody you can call your friend. I've got my best friend who I've known since I was a little girl. She was on this platform
last week, and the reason I used to speak with her about Ray, okay, at times when we had our little issues, was because sometimes you've got to check yourself as well, you know, because, you know, I might think, okay, he's wrong, but my best friend and the people that know me, that I confide in, and mainly my best friend, knew me or knows me. So you've got to kind of say, well, you know, I just, you know, say to her, well, what do you think? Because she knew me very well. And it's about love within itself. It's about understanding one another, and you've got to make a man feel a man. A woman has to feel like a woman as well, and the communication is two-way. And sometimes when you have an issue, you can't always sort it out there and then. You've got to give people space, so it's not always the right time. And if you've got an ongoing issue, because I'm an open and honest person, so my poor husband, yeah, he used to, so sometimes Ray used to back down, and, you know, it's about saying sorry as well. If you know and realise that you're wrong, you've really got to make that time so that issue doesn't continue on and fester into something bigger. You really have to sit down, make that quality time, even if you've got to go away somewhere, talk it through. It's about community, because Ray used to talk. I was blessed to have a man that, you know, used to sit, we used to talk, yeah, we used to have we had our major challenges at times, but it's about understanding, communication, that embracing that love, that physical love and that emotional and mental love as well. But speaking, when you have your issues, make sure you're speaking to the right people, because you might turn to somebody and they may be in a place that they just won't understand you, and they may even, so you know, my best friend, I knew she knows me inside out, and she knew my husband very well. So make sure you're speaking to the right friend, because not everybody is your friend. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Well said, Di. Well said. Is LB still on the platform?
LB.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, LB. If there are any other gentlemen out there, I've got another 2 questions that I feel are geared around the men.
16 here.
Is 16 here?
Oh, you in the stealth.
Is he?
Is he there?
Oh, bro. Good evening, sir.
I don't even know if he's here. If you're here and you want to contribute, by all means. Before I jump to LB,
I'm here.
Hi, 6.
Yeah.
Nice one. Wait there. I'm just going to read what Angel has written. So how do we get those who don't want to learn from past mistakes to see that it's something they should learn from, and not stay stuck in the funk of not developing because they may deem the funk safer? A lot of people have a fear of change and fear that learning from their mistakes can be overwhelming. Any male wanna? Well, that's open to both male or females.
I'd like to just say with that, from my personal point of view, I think people have to, they're on their own journey. Sometimes we can't kind of force people to, you might look at somebody and think, you know what, you're so great, you're such a good person. But if they're stuck in that situation and they can't see it, we can't move them along. They have to do it for themselves. And sometimes it's hard to walk away from somebody, but sometimes you just have to let people grow. We kind of go at different rates. And I believe that we'll always kind of eventually find the person that's on that same kind of level, that same kind of vibration. So sometimes it's hard to walk away, but sometimes it's what we have to do, you know?
And also, I think there's another message here. Man caves aren't always a bad place. Sometimes it depends what sent you there and or what you do in there. If it helps you reset and come out calmer and able to engage on a level, then it's not, then is that bad? However, if that's the first place you run, then that's just escapism. I like those. Thank you very much, Angel and Owen. I believe that's the pronunciation. Forgive me if I've mispronounced it. So the questions I want to ask are for the men. This is, do you feel that the more independent a woman becomes, the less she is going to be impressed by her male counterpart. That's number one. And can it be she may feel that rather than rescue the relationship or try to understand what is the problem or reason for the retreating into the man cave, it's easier for her as a woman to just be amongst, again, the girls and just offload until they've emptied themselves, and then come back home with their tail between their legs, feeling 6 foot tall, ready to get whatever they were equipped with by their girls and confront the situation. Some men
don't agree with that. Don't agree with that.
But isn't it really just like, I mean, whether it be male or female, isn't it just really finding a comfortable space to, like, you know, release your emotional vulnerabilities? Do you know what I mean? Like, for a man, it's like, you know, it's easier to kind of, like, you know, show your vulnerability to a next man as opposed to show it to, like, you know, your significant other. And maybe vice versa, you know, with a female. I mean, what's everybody's thoughts on that? I mean, is this escape to the man cave or to the she cave, is that, you know, just an outlet, or is that kind of like the protective hedge around your true raw emotions?
Can I just say something personally? I had a lot of sisters, so it was easy for me to turn to my siblings. But at the same time, I had like my main girls. And what I realized was that some women thrive off of your downfall. They love to hear when shit is going wrong. Yeah. And I've been in so many different sister circles, younger than myself, my age, above me. Now, for me, my husband is 5 years older than me. So when we dated in my early years, from I was 17, I was around a lot of older women. But when it came to maturity, I was older than them in that respect. And the discussions that we used to have, I found them more intrigued by what I had to provide to this circle. Yeah. As I got older, I realized how beneficial it is to be private about things, because you get so inundated with what they think you should do. Yeah, with what they think you should do. And they would never, and I can speak with my hand on my heart from experience, all of what they're telling you to do, you best believe they ain't doing it. Can't do it, won't do it, not going there. Yeah. And communication is very important, but if you don't know how to communicate, because there's verbal and there's non-verbal communication. Yeah. And sometimes a person don't have to be vocal, but the body language says a lot on how they've reciprocated what it is you've said to them or not. Right. And women can just be as dangerous as men when it comes to retreating, because I know from experience, see, if I don't want to chat to you,
it's a wrap.
I can see you and don't see you. And that must hurt. That must hurt.
You know, that's the greatest, right, Scotty? When you get in the cold shoulder, Scott.
Yeah. See, I'm lying on ear and
nothing's working.
You know what? Just sitting here and just trying to reflect that whole conversation. And I think it really kind of brings it back to the beginning where we spoke about a man is the head and the woman is the neck. And when the women go into their chic shed, or what Diane called, and they're coming back into that relationship, into that conversation, into that dialogue, it's about how do I remain and keep my femininity to get the head to turn in that direction that I want. So yes, I've gone and I've seeked some solace with my significant network of my girlfriends or my best friend to let me pause, to help me think about what's going on, to help me think about what could be going on in the mind of the other. And when I go back into that situation, how do I use these things to get this head to turn the direction that I want so that we can have this conversation? So I think you went there about going into the cave. It all comes back to that pausing and being more curious of your significant other so that they don't retreat to the woman's shed or they don't retreat to the man cave, but giving them time to pause and be curious about what could be going on. And I think that comes back down to that word that you checked out in the beginning, that into me. So if I pause, I get to see into me, to drive my behavior. And because I understand driving my behavior, it might make me have a deeper understanding of what is driving my significant other behavior. And then you're not going to have that conflict. You see what I'm saying?
No.
Yeah. Who's that? I don't want to see no ceiling. I want to see one face. I don't want to see no ceiling.
I'm not really
He's afraid he might get jumped. He says the wrong thing.
I don't want to see no ceiling.
It's all right, man. Don't worry. I think there's something that the ladies get when they speak to their sisters.
Mm.
If you've got a good strong group of sisters, there's a level of vulnerability that you can encounter there, and a certain level of growth. Growth usually only happens when you're vulnerable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, you guys might talk, but unfortunately, it's rare that guys will be vulnerable with each other. It's good when it happens, but unfortunately, because men, I've spoke to lots of guys and I've been on lots of guys, and a lot of it is the bravado and when they're talking by themselves, it's like yeah, and all the kind of, they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to say, well, she hurt me.
Oh, hold on, LB. Hold that thought, LB. But you know what? Again, just speaking from my personal growth as a man, I'm beyond that. I can talk to my brethren and be like, yo, I did love her, and it's like, yo, it hurt my heart, I've got beyond that.
Yeah, no, good. But there's a lot of guys who haven't.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry to come, but does that not come with maturity? Because maybe
it definitely does. It definitely does. Definitely does.
I know. I have a lot of conversation with males as well. So I think that. So yeah, I think it does from my experience of speaking with males.
Yeah, it comes from maturity, but maturity doesn't come with age. It's like Z was saying earlier. She's in her 40s, and she's still having to walk away from guys because they're still being immature. And it's until us as men, until we can start to be willing to let go of certain ideas that may have worked for you when you're as a teenager or in your 20s. You have to recognize that that's the behavior and the mindset of a young boy, and that you have to take on the mindset of a man. And sometimes it's difficult because you have to find the right circles to get that where you're allowed to be vulnerable so you can grow.
But when does maturity
and as Trish was saying earlier, she hasn't got time to mess around. She's got a kid. So if you're not ready, then, and unfortunately a lot of guys, they're grown, but they're not mature.
But when does maturity kick in?
That's like how long is a piece of string?
Maturity kicks in when you're able to be vulnerable enough to accept that when I'm being, if I'm being stuck, and recognize that I'm being stuck and I need to change.
Right.
It's an acknowledgement of where you're at. If you can acknowledge your state, then you can change. If you don't acknowledge that.
That's going to be, as you said, Scotty. It's how long is a piece of string then, isn't it?
But then, and here's my rough cut, because I am Diane. Cut to the change.
Yeah,
it's going to start when you make the conscious decision to make the change. you know, it's down to the individual. You know what I mean? Because the more you keep on perpetuating negativity, the more you're going to get negativity. When you make a decision to make a change and switch it to positive, that's what you're going to get. You can't plant corn and expect to get apple. You know what I'm saying?
And that word, because you know, so okay, so I know women have their traits, men have theirs, but when I speak about myself, or when someone refers to me, I'm Diane, I'm an individual. I may be a woman, but I'm an individual. So sometimes you have to, rather than look at the whole picture as a man or as a woman, you got to try and understand that individual and not tarnish everybody with the same brush. Yeah. Yes, I think that is very important, because I don't like when people come and say, yeah, woman. So I do it in dress, you know, I sort of say, oh yeah, men, you're a man, this is a man thing or whatever, but you're also individuals. I'm a woman, I'm an individual. Treat me as an individual. Don't tarnish me like everybody else, because I'm not the same as every other woman, and you're not the same as every other man.
No, absolutely. I wasn't.
I think you're totally right, but there's also a time now with a lot of women in my generation, we're tired, and I'm not by any means saying that us women are perfect or that all women are perfect, but we're tired of the bullshit. A lot of us are so tired, and I love my black men. I come from a black man. My children are black men, but I'm tired.
You know,
I'm tired.
Before I met my husband, I was in a relationship for 9 years. A lovely guy. Yeah, and I blame myself, if I'm honest with you, for staying there for 9 years. But although I'm not going to, I learned a lot from it. But I had to make that decision to walk away. Yeah, it took a lot. And I'm not, because as a person, amazing, but he wasn't going, we didn't have that same vision. Yeah, so I had to choose to walk away. So if, you know, and then I met my husband, amazing. So that's true love. So right now I'm a single woman. Yes, I'm not just, so I may end up being single for the rest of my life. If that's the way it's meant to be, then fine. I'm not just going to accept anything. Yeah, so because because we've got to love ourselves as well. We have to, whether you're a man, woman, or whatever, you've got to love and you've got to know yourself. And sometimes that can be a bit of a journey as well. But I know myself, yeah. So I'm not just going to accept any rubbish. I had a man that represented true love. I was also in a relationship that was not going anywhere, and I had to walk away from it. Yeah, I mean, when I decided to walk away from that relationship, he was saying, "Oh, you know, we can do this." It was just too late. Yeah, so I walked, and I have no regrets.
Okay. I'm feeling the love and the anger and the rage and the passion come forward, and I'm so mindful of time, and I want to get this to the end. It's important that I do. And I'm so thankful for the contributions.
Got my address, right? To send a check? Cut the check. Come on, let's go. Anyway, yeah, great contributions today. I'm away in Atlanta, people, so I'm still kind of like working. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon out here in Atlanta. So, you know, I've definitely cut out some time for Diane and Scott. Fantastic platform. And it's also given me a way to connect with my beautiful people back in London as well. I don't get to have these kind of conversations out here in the US. Different mindset, different culture. So this is some fantastic stuff.
It really has been. It really has been. So I'm gonna kind of wrap up this, and I know everything that has been said is so valuable, and it's all from experience, and it's from the heart, and it's genuine and sincere. And I hope we've been able to kind of ease up the uncertainty as much as we possibly can. But there's going to be loads more platforms where the discussion, the topics are again going to be as such, where we're able to share and exchange experiences and ideas. I'm going to come to try and wrap it up. I know, Scott, you want to say something. Would you like me to start and then you can come, or do you want to say what you have to say?
You start and then I'll finish.
Yeah? Okay, so there is a word called submission that is taken out of context, yeah? And in the opening, Scotty spoke about the man being the head of the family and the lady is the neck. Now, man says, or dictionary says, based on this word submission, the action of not accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will or authority of another person, right? So we've already established why we go like that, yeah? I'm going to throw a scripture in here now because I can't leave out the man above at all. And this is Ephesians 5:21-20-25. And I'm reading it from the Message because it brings it to modern day language. Out of respect for Christ, be courteous, reverent to one another. Wives or partners, husbands or partners are to understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife the way Christ does to his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So just as the church submits to Christ as he exercises such leaderships, wives, girlfriends, you know, establishing of relationships, you should likewise submit to your husbands or your significant other or whoever it is that you're trying to establish. So no one, so there's no man caves or girls talks. They should not be a retreat away from a problem that has not been resolved. Yeah. My closing question is this. If you met yourself, how would you introduce you to you? I'm gonna, yeah. So this is for everyone. I want my host to home in on this. If you met yourself, how would you introduce you to you?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what.
Me. I'm feeling me.
And we're not going to describe each other now or describe ourselves, because I think that I'm always wary of, no, I'm not a clock watcher, but I'm always conscious of time. The greatest gift that we can give to a next human being is our time. Because the time that you guys have shared with me and Claude and Diane today, you're not going to get that hour and 30 minutes back. And when people give you time, I think it's something that you got to respect, you got to value, you got to acknowledge it. So I always say to people that give me some of their time, thank you very much. And I respect that you've taken your time out to come and sit down with complete strangers and share something. And on a positive note, I just wanted to say that it's good, even though we've had some participants, in terms of sharing the message, because what we want to do is we want to try and provide a space where we can do this, what I call dance of learning, just being curious about different ways of thinking and experiencing things. And I think today, if we was to write, we've had a really enjoyable, thoughtful, respectful conversation. I never hear no bad word cuss, not once. Never hear. We had a few little laughter, but that was positive. So on a note, I always do reading every other couple of days, it helps me in the morning to kind of get my head straight, and people like when I do the reading. So I think I'm gonna do mine, and I'm gonna finish with that question so that when you go away, when you leave us today, you can all think about, how would I introduce myself to me? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? When I look in the mirror, what do I see? And not what do I see physically, but what do I see internally? What do I see into me, this intimacy thing? So I'm just going to give you this reading, and that's the thought that I'd like you to leave with. So just bear with me. Pause for a minute, take a breath, sit in your chair, just relax. And this is called Know That You Are Good Enough. Don't depend on others to fuel your self-belief. Develop your self-belief so that it becomes self-sustaining. Don't fall into the habit of looking to other people for validation or approval. Remind yourself each day that you are good enough and that you don't need anyone else to tell you for it to be true. Know that you are good enough. And that's my contribution. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that we had a really fruitful conversation. Have good evenings, whatever you're going to do for the rest of the evening. If you thought this was helpful, tell a friend, share the link, because I think we need to have more space like this. And hats off Ryan for reaching out to me and PC. And it's a pleasure for me to like just be and I'm really grateful that I was able to share some time with you guys today. So thank you. Diane will be sending out, putting all this together again. Diane, thank you for your hard work and your time. Cool.
Can't hear you, Diane. You're muted.
This goes to show this ain't staged. Yeah. Thank you, my co-host, JC, Scotty. Thank you all once again for another informative platform. We hope you have gained wisdom. I'm just repeating what Scott said, to enhance a healthier approach in your relationships and form, future relationships. We are not experts. So if it does not work, please be reminded to look within self, for it starts with self. And that means taking ownership and responsibility. All right, so it's good night from me.
Good night from me. See you guys later.
Thank you. And it's been recorded.
Bye, thanks.
It's been recorded.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.